Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome to the forum, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you, one and all, for coming out tonight. My name is Jimmy Tingle. That is my real name. I will be your host this evening, ladies and gentlemen, for the comedy portion of this evening. Just by a round of applause, how many people first time to the forum? First time to the forum. 1. 2. Welcome, students of Harvard. How many people first time seeing me perform? By a round of applause. Very cool, very cool. And how many people have seen me perform before? Very nice, very nice, very nice. Well, thank you for coming back twice. And for those of you who don't know me, the name is Tingle. That is the real name. I grew up here in the city of Cambridge. I've been a comedian. I started in the early 1980s. I started right here in the Cambridge area. I used to do street performing right here in Harvard Square. Thank you. And I admit there is a fine line between street performing and simply being drunk in public. I admit that, ladies and gentlemen. But I've been very, very blessed as a comic. I've got to travel all over the country, all over the world. I don't want to brag. 2 years ago, I went to Europe. I'd just like to say, excellent country. Now, see, you know what the nice thing about being at Harvard is, folks? You actually get that joke. That's why I stopped working in comedy clubs, ladies and gentlemen. I would do that line in a comedy club. Literally, half the audience would be drunk going, yeah, Europe, good country. But the purpose of tonight's show, folks, we've been working a long time on this, is to bring some unity, to try to bring some levity and some hope and some happiness and some togetherness around a very difficult issue. The comics that will be speaking are speaking only from their own perspective. And the speakers that will be speaking here tonight are only speaking on their own narratives. So they're not representing any groups or anything like that. They're speaking about their own experience. And I'm just thrilled to be a part of it tonight, folks. I have to tell you, I want to do a special thanks to the forum, to Noelia Rodriguez and Sean Tierney and Jeff Barnes for having us and all the hard work they put into this. A special round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for them. A special round of applause for the Israeli and the Palestinian caucuses, ladies and gentlemen, who are the sponsors of tonight's event. That's right. And a special round of applause for Hillary Rantisi and the Middle East Initiative, ladies and gentlemen, who put this together. This is a student-driven event, and I got to tell you something. I could be the only person that's really hopeful about the situation in the Middle East. I'm not kidding you. And the reason I am, folks, is because I feel that because it is the home of the three major religions in the world, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. I'm not bragging, but I go to Harvard. I know the three religions. They all focus on the spiritual principles of love, justice, peace, forgiveness, compassion, loving one another. That's what these religions are about. And that's what I think can be the hope for this event and the hope for this country and the hope for this world, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why, rather than religion being a divisive element or a divisive instrument in the whole equation, I think it'd be a very, very positive aspect and something to aspire to. Now, I personally grew up Catholic. Are there any Catholics here? Catholics? Couple. Jeez, you don't sound happy. Come on. Come on, you Catholics. Be proud of your religion. Every show I do, are there any Catholics? And they're always like, there's one or two that are happy, but the rest of them are like, oh, Jesus, what do we do? You Catholics, be proud of your religion. The Catholic Church is a beautiful institution. It has helped millions of people for centuries in this country and around the world. You Catholics, you hold your heads up high. If you're not a child molester, you have nothing to be ashamed about. And the rest of you people, if I get to your religion, I want some hooting, and I want some hollering, and I want some religious fervor. Okay? Because quite frankly, folks, I don't think there's enough religious fervor in the world right now. Are there any Protestants here tonight, folks? Protestants. Couple Protestants. Welcome, my Protestant friends. What denomination? They're confused. That's okay. Welcome, my Protestant friends. I know there's a lot of you, so it's welcome, welcome, welcome. Great thing about, any Muslims, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, welcome, my Muslim friends. Welcome. You're the most enthusiastic Muslims I think I've seen. I'm not kidding you, because I do a lot of shows, and the Muslims are like, I'm not saying nothing, you know. And I have to put them at ease. I tell them, listen, we're not from Homeland Security. Are there any Muslims here? Thank you, thank you, thank you. And the great thing about America is we have freedom of religion. We also have freedom from religion, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have to believe in anything in this country. It's one of the great things about this country. Are there any atheists here? Atheists, ladies and gentlemen. That's okay. Very, very consistent with the atheist clap. You don't want to be an enthusiastic atheist, because then you know you're going to hell. Welcome, my atheist friend. Let's see. I need Jews, ladies and Jews. Jews. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. As a matter of fact, there's 3 more. Welcome, my Jewish friends. Well, I grew up Catholic, and I grew up in a pretty conservative Catholic family, okay? I went to college, and the great thing about college is it challenges your views. It makes you think differently. And the great thing about this school is that you have all these different people here with different points of view that come together, and we all learn from one another. I went to college, I don't want to say when, years ago. I was about that old. I went to college, I took biology. The professor actually told us there was no God. I was shocked. I was an altar boy. Don't tell me there's no God. I used to work for the guy. I mean, you tell an altar boy there's no God, that's like telling the Hell's Angels Satan's driving a moped. Now, a lot of it was very interesting. The professor would show us those evolutionary charts, how man evolved. Do you remember the charts they used to show you in school? You remember those charts, right? They start off with a little fish. Man came from the sea, you know. I'd be sitting there going, I know, immigration. And they start off with a little fish. And the fish would evolve into the frog. And the frogs would evolve into the reptiles. And the reptiles evolve into the birds. And the birds evolve into the mammals. Little mammals at first. Little dog-like creatures. Learned how to walk upright. Learned how to climb. Lived in the trees. Became apes. Apes lived in the trees for thousands and thousands of years. One of them fell down, hurt his back, never worked again. Became a man. That's right. And you know, we went through a lot of different changes with the show. How should we do it? What should the order be? And everybody put in their 2 cents. I had an idea nobody else liked. I thought, what about a life-size nativity scene right here on the stage? You know, with like the wise men. We'd have Benjamin Netanyahu, George Mitchell, Mahmoud Abbas as the wise men, right? Maybe Hillary Clinton as the Virgin Mary. Maybe Joe Biden as her husband, Joe. And maybe Barack Obama as the baby Jesus. I'm the only one that thought that was a good idea, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I have to tell you, we're thrilled that you're here tonight, and we have a fantastic event. Again, it's about unity, it's about coming together, it's about having some laughs, and really gaining some insight from one another's experiences. Our first performer tonight, I'm really excited about working with this woman. She, Maysoon Zayed, is an actress and professional stand-up comedian. She is the co-founder of the New York Arab Comedy Festival and can be seen on Comedy Central, MTV, HBO, PBS, and in Adam Sandler's new movie, You Don't Mess with Zohan. Her screenplay, LAW, Law, was recently chosen for the Sundance Screenwriters Lab and is slated to begin production in the fall. Maysoon has performed stand-up in the top New York clubs and has toured extensively in the United States as well as Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. She's very, very interesting. She spends 3 months a year in Palestine, where she runs Maysoon's Kids, a scholarship and wellness program for disabled and wounded refugee children and orphans. Ladies and gentlemen, how about a warm Kennedy School welcome for Maysoon Zayed? Is this cool?
And then I'm like OCD, so it has to be centered. Okay, great. Let's see now how this goes. Hello, Harvard. Oh, come on. Give me a break. Hello, Harvard. There you go. Okay, my name is Maysoon Zayed, and for those of you who don't know me, I am the most oppressed person in the entire world. I am female, I am Muslim, I'm a virgin, I'm Arab, and I live in New Jersey. If you don't feel better about yourself, maybe you fucking should. So, anyone else with cerebral palsy out there? No? I'm the only one? It's really interesting having cerebral palsy because people don't know what to make of it. It's not like a good, obvious disability like having one arm where no one would ever be like, hey, why do you have only one arm? Cerebral palsy, they never know what's wrong with me. They always think I'm drunk. And I can assure you I'm not drunk because that would be against my religion. But it's always made me question. What would happen if I did get drunk? What would happen if I was in high school and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get drunk with all of my friends. Would I actually walk straight? Would I get home and have my father look at me and instead of yelling at me and being like, Daddy, how could you? Why are you drinking? Would he look at me and just go, Daddy, you're healed. Tell you guys about my dad. My dad's name is Musa, which translated to English means Moses. So I'm a Palestinian girl with a father with a Jewish name. Makes complete sense. And just like Moses, my father also has commandments. He chose not to have 10, but rather just one, and it is, thou shalt not sleep with my daughter. And it is strictly, strictly enforced. By round of applause, who's married here? Anyone married here? Yeah. I'm going to talk to you guys in a little bit about how you never tell us how bad it's going to be. And by round of applause, where are my single ladies? Nice. Very good. Single ladies, the most incredible thing happened in the world in August. I am 33 years old, okay? Now, 33 at Harvard is like a freshman. But 33 in the Arab world, it's kind of like dog years. So a 33-year-old American is actually considered 67 in Palestine. And this summer, the most incredible thing happened. At the age of 33/67, I got engaged. Do my single ladies want to know how I did it? Oh, come on, girls. You want to know? You know you want to know. You know you want to get off eHarmony and NoSleep.com because neither of them are good. This is how I did it. I went to the perfect place to find a guy. I went to Gaza. Do you want to know why? Because they got no place to run. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. Here's what I did. I took my U.S. passport and I framed it like a beautiful gold medallion, and I just kind of walked right through the refugee camp, kind of looking around, going, you want a visa, baby? And this one guy looked at me and he went, yeah, I do. And so I was like, all right, let's go. So then, you know, it's weird because in the Arab culture, they don't propose. They don't drop to one knee and give you a ring. We don't have that. They call your father and purchase you. So he called my father to ask for my hand. And the very first thing my father said was, no, she's crazy. You don't want this. But then he finally agreed. And so I went up to my fiance and I was like, listen, I may be a Palestinian heritage. I may be a refugee living in America, even though I'm born and raised in Jersey. But I've been a bridesmaid 17 times. And I need a good proposal story. It has to be something like you jumped out of an F-16 with a ring, not something else. And, you know, he just had no idea what I was talking about. He was like, you want to go? I'm like, no. And so I showed him The Bachelor. You know the TV show, The Bachelor? I showed him The Bachelor so he could see how they propose. And I was like, but you don't leave me like they leave them. And I was like, and you have to surprise me. And so then we were crossing a checkpoint, at which point he decided, hey, perfect timing. And he dropped to one knee at the checkpoint like this. And I was like, oh, my God, great. Now they're going to shoot him. I'm going to die a virgin. Thank you. Back to the camps with my necklace. And so he's sitting there, you know, at Kalenda checkpoint. He's holding out this ring. And he looked me dead in the eye. And I will never forget this. He looked at me and he went, here, take it. And all I could think was, yes, he speaks English. Yeah. Something very strange happened. Has anyone ever been engaged to someone who lived overseas and then came here? No? You have? Did you want to send him back immediately? Like, you get buyer's remorse the second someone's visa is attached to you. You're like, oh my God, you're going to go to jail if I send you home. This is too much pressure. What shocked me when my fiance walked off the plane, he got to America September 18th. He walked off the plane, and I just looked at him and I went, oh my God, you have one eyebrow and not two. How did I never notice that? So, this is a problem because, again, now that I'm engaged, I have to have a wedding, and I can't be marrying the Palestinian version of Bert from the Muppet Show. So I'm like, baby, I just want you to feel comfortable in America. I'm going to teach you some lessons. Like, in America, we have two eyebrows. And he looked at me and he went, Habibti, you want to know when I'm going to have two eyebrows? You want to know when I'm going to have two eyebrows? I'm going to have two eyebrows when they have two states. Yani, never. And I was like, what? He goes, listen to me, Habibti. If there is no settlement freezing, there is no eyebrow tweezing. So unless we get this solved, I'm marrying Bert, and I think that's cruel. I've always hated weddings. Anyone else hate weddings? I hate weddings. And the reason is very simple. Again, if you've ever been a bridesmaid, at the end of the wedding, they march you out with a group of angry women who are not getting married, who are single and pushing 40, and they throw a bouquet of flowers that weighs somewhere around 50 pounds over their backs so they don't know where the heck it's going, and a bunch of wild women with hairspray and alcohol try to catch this thing. And my problem is this. First of all, I'm sober, so the elbows hit and hurt. And second of all, I have cerebral palsy. I'm not good at catching. But I'm excited for my wedding because when it's my turn, instead of doing what the rest of the brides did and throwing the bouquet over my shoulder, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look straight ahead and throw it directly at them. Because I may have cerebral palsy and be bad at catching, but I'm Palestinian and I'm very good at throwing. I only have a couple of seconds left. I'm really, really excited to be at Harvard, guys. Thank you so much for doing this. Really, this is incredible. Thank you. It's so cool. So I want to tell you just a little bit about my fiance because I make fun of him all the time. I feel bad because he's such a good guy. And ladies, just so you know that there's hope, at 33, I managed to get engaged to a guy that is single, never divorced, no kids, no diseases. He's like a Palestinian unicorn. And he's kind of like Barack Obama, because no one ever believed it would happen. Like, my relatives were like, she never gonna get married. She may be gay, we don't know, it's never gonna happen. And he's also like Barack Obama in that, like, when I got engaged, I was like, wow, my Palestinian unicorn. And now that we live together, he's similar to the president in that it was all hope, all hype. Actually, yeah, it didn't pay off. And he's still smoking even though he pretends he doesn't either. Yeah. So for my last little joke here, I'm going to tell you guys a story about when I met Yasser Arafat. And I actually got to meet Yasser Arafat, and not because I wanted to or I admired him. I met him because there was a lot of confusion in America about us being the same person. Because, he was Palestinian, I'm Palestinian, he had crazy facial hair. And he shakes, I shake, he spit, I swallow, two different people. But there are 52 ways to have fun while still technically remaining a virgin. Just remember that. And so I felt like, yeah, Harvard is like, what's happening? What's happening? They didn't tell us this. No. So I went because I wanted to dispel the myth that we were the same person. Like people think Satan and Santa are the same. Arafat and I are not the same person. So I went to go shake his hand. And I waited my turn at line at the UN, stuck out my hand to shake his hand, and it looked like this. And then his security stuck out his hand, and it looked like this. And then President Arafat stuck out his hand, and he looked like this. So I'm going like this, Arafat's going like this, security's going like this and like this. It was like, Shakira, Shakira. And in the end, I never actually got to shake his hand. But he licked my face really well. By round of applause, who speaks Arabic? You're small but mighty. So just so Harvard gets to hear it, my final joke's going to be in Arabic. And it's not controversial, okay? So this is for all my Arabs that came out to support us. And this is also a unity thing, because we're doing a unity thing here. If you don't speak Arabic, find an Arab friend at the end of the show, and they will translate for you, okay? So this is for my Arabs out there. كان في واحد مرته ماتت. كان ماشي في الجنازة وبيغني وبرقص وبيزغرت. وأجا عليه أخوه قال له ولك يا زلمة شو أنت بتسوي؟ مرتك ماتت وأنت قاعد بترقص وبتغني ولا ليش؟ قال له أول مرة بعرف وين الشرموطة رايحة. Thank you so much, Kennedy School. My name is Maysoon Zayed. Next year in Jerusalem, inshallah.
How about it, folks? Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you so much. How about it for Maysoon Zayed, ladies and gentlemen? Fantastic. Oh, boy, that was great. I have to tell you, speaking Arabic, you know, one of the great things about this school is it does challenge you intellectually. Now, I was very reluctant to come to the school because didn't know if I could really do the work. And when I got here, I found out there's some truth to that. Now, for example, I had to take statistics, okay? So, and some of you were in the statistics class. Now, I never did well in math. I didn't do well in math, put it that way. So I'm in statistics class, and we had a great teacher, Deb Hughes-Hallett, who was one of the greatest teachers ever. She was just so great. She had extra help classes like 3 or 4 times a week. And I went to every single extra help class for 3 months. And the people who were in the class know me. I was in every one. It was always the same. And this is how the school works together. People learn from one another. Every single class was the same, extra help. I'd walk in, it would be me and 6 people from other countries. Countries often at odds with each other, okay? India and Pakistan, Israel and Palestine, Bosnia and Croatia, and a native Bostonian. All of us with English as a second language. It was a beautiful, beautiful thing. And my point is this, ladies and gentlemen, we helped each other, and I ended up with a B in statistics, okay? Okay? A B. A B, okay? Well, in the spirit of full disclosure, a B minus. But let me say, a B minus in statistics, okay? And what I'm trying to say, this is why I'm optimistic, because of people like you, ladies and gentlemen, and of schools like this. If I can get a B minus at graduate school in Harvard, we can have world peace, ladies and gentlemen. Our next performer, I got the real joy and pleasure to work with this gentleman over the years. How you guys doing up there? You're not going to jump, are you? There's seats down here, or are you national security? Welcome. Anyway, there are some seats down here, but how is it up there? Pretty good? Good. Can you see and everything? Can you hear? Yeah, we can hear. Oh, okay, cool. All right, welcome. It is pretty cool working in the forum, you know. Because, you know, I have to tell you, I quit drinking like 15 years ago. And this is another reason I believe so strongly in the power of the prayer and the meditation. Because I quit drinking. My friend said, if you ever quit drinking, Jimmy, you could be a really big star. I said, a star? Could I work Harvard? He said, Jimmy, you quit drinking, you could work the forum. I said, what do I got to do? He said, you got to start asking God to help you stop drinking. I said, ask God to help me stop drinking. Calm down. What does God have to do with this? He said, Jimmy, I've seen you when you're drunk, and it's going to take divine intervention. And I started to do it, folks, and it actually started to work. And that's why I'm optimistic about the religious component of what's going on. The power of prayer started to work in my life. That, along with detox, rehab, and therapy, I was actually lucky enough to be able to stop drinking. I don't say that to try to preach or convert anybody. I say it for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's the absolute truth. And number two, it might help somebody else. Because you have to admit one thing, ladies and gentlemen. Betty Ford helped a hell of a lot more people than Jerry Ford. And he was the president of the United States. Oh, by the way, some of us, are actually going to be the presidents of countries. Like, anybody here planning on running for president of a small country? Or a large country? Courtney? The country of Gloucester, Massachusetts. Beautiful. The people, you know what's weird? Well, no matter what we do here, we'll get out of here, but people, our friends and our relatives are always going to remember us as we were when we were kids growing up. Even Obama's friends, they don't, he's the president, but they remember you as you were growing up, which is cool, but it's kind of weird in a way. I mean, no matter who you are. I mean, I picture, even Jesus, I picture a couple of guys who grew up with Jesus, okay, in Nazareth, Maybe they all went to grammar school together. Everybody grows up, they go their separate ways. Christ is out performing miracles. He's turning water into wine. He's healing the sick. These guys are back in Nazareth, maybe working for the town. Maybe a little jealous. Maybe a little envious. Maybe a little angry at themselves. They never just got on that donkey and left Nazareth. Maybe they're working on the road to Jericho, The biblical equivalent of the big dig. Huh? Started in the time of Moses. 1,500 years later, they're still working on that baby. I picture one of them leans on a shovel one day and goes, do you remember Jesus? Jesus, 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 Jesus. The Christ child? You talking about the carpenter's boy? What about him? Somebody said they saw him a couple of weeks ago up in Galilee walking on water. Get the hell out of here. I remember in the 5th grade, he almost drowned at the Y. Can't be the same kid. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring to the stage right now one of the top political comedians working in New York City today, according to NBC. We started working together about 20 years ago in New York. He's a great guy and a great friend. He performs regularly at Laughing Liberally shows in New York City. He hosted the Breaking Convention, a liberal dose of political humor, in Denver and St. Paul during the 2008 Democratic Convention and Republican Convention. Scott Blakeman tours colleges, theaters, temples, Jewish community centers, and mosques with the Palestinian American comedian Dean Abdallah and Stand Up for Peace. That's where I met him, folks, with Stand Up for Peace when we used to have a theater in Somerville. He's one of the shows that we booked in there, and they were great. And that gave me the idea to do this here tonight. And our other speakers are going to just augment the humor part of the night with their own personal narratives. But anyway, these two comedians, they try to find comedic solutions to the problems in the Middle East. He appears regularly as a liberal pundit on The Strategy Room, a live webcast on FoxNews.com. He's also appeared on Comedy Central, MSNBC, CNN, ABC News, the National Public Radio, and the BBC. Scott hosts a political comedy talk show, The End of the Week as We Know It, at the Tank in New York City, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not doing anything next weekend, go to New York, go to the Tank, see Scott Blakeman. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Scott Blakeman.
Thanks a lot, Jimmy. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Jimmy. Jimmy Tingle. Wow, this is so exciting to me. We're here tonight, as you all know, to bring together two groups of people who have been at odds for far too long. Yankees and Red Sox fans. So it's working out well. But just bring everybody together here tonight. This show is a success even before everybody's here. I'm so glad that you're, and I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be here at the Forum. A funny thing happened on the way to the Forum. We should call the show. But and to be in front of this, my parents are quelling right now. They're watching the. I mean, to be in front of this level, this is my dream. Some comedians aspire to be David Letterman. I've always looked up to David Gergen. So here I am. I've got the logo behind me. It's wonderful. And, you know, and my goal has always been to have my name in the Citizen. So keep my fingers crossed when it comes out. And this is incredible, too, because not how many shows do you get to, you know, the tradition or the forum, you sign the poster, you know, and that's great company to be in. But there's everything in the forum, there's a certain way of doing it. And they say, well, you want to see how you're supposed to sign the poster? I didn't know there was a way you're supposed to sign the poster. So I said, well, I don't know. Well, here's a recent poster. This is how you do it. I said, okay. So I went back to the poster, and above my name, I signed Hank Paulson. So I was on my knees when I did that, too. I was bending. But anyway, but it's so exciting, and we started a little late, which I guess is not typical for the forum. But as Maysoon knows, you know, Jewish comedy shows always start late. Arab comedy shows always start late. African-American comedy shows always start late. I was on a show a couple weeks ago with Jewish, Arab, and African-American comedians. It still hasn't started yet, actually. So it's exciting, though, and really, like I said, to be here, it's wonderful. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I just spoke to my parents. They ask about all of you. And I'm very proud, you know, as Maysoon is, and I made you French all of a sudden. Maison, it's a fine, from an Arab comedian to a French wine. You know, we all have so many similarities. Our family backgrounds are, you know, it's also similar, and food is such an important part of our heritage, our shared heritage. And my mother left me a message. I'll share this a few moments later. She said, "Scotty, darling, please eat." And she signed off the message, "It's your mother." And it's one because I went to a diner in the area, and they actually had a section that said Jewish-style food. How could this be? What does this mean, Jewish? Would he order very loudly? I'll have the brisket. I know. I knew it was going to be brisket, just from the tone. It would be nice. And recently I saw a very puzzling sign. It was a restaurant, and it said, authentic kosher-style food. Now let's break that down. Kosher style means it's not kosher. So what's authentic kosher style? It's so not kosher, you're not going to believe it. Even if you have no idea what kosher is, you know this isn't kosher. It's got pork drizzled with milk, with bacon and cheese, and extra served only on Yom Kippur. So, and this again, to be in this surrounding here, and I'm, you know, as a New York, I'm thinking this would be a great apartment, but you know, I mean, how do you do the blinds in the window? Anyway, but that's a whole other thing. But sadly, this is the size of my apartment in Brooklyn, but so it's a little bit different. I'm taking it with me, too, along with the poster. And but to be in such lovely surroundings, because as Jimmy mentioned, I do a lot of, lately I've been doing a lot of temples and Jewish community centers, which gives you some idea how well the career is going, but it's... Some would say doing the JCC in Newton is enough. I don't know. It was nice, but no, I loved it. It was a wonderful place. I love the JCC in Newton, actually, in the middle of the show, actually, when I was there was a little mishap. The sound went out, the lights went out simultaneously. 900 Jewish people yelled out, "Call somebody!" We're not equipped. That's a stereotype that is true in my case. With Americans, with Israelis, does not apply at all. If it was Israelis in the audience, they would have fixed it in seconds and built another auditorium, just so it would have been, you know. We're sitting, "Hi, call." We don't know. It's a whole different thing. And so again, I do a lot of temples, Jewish community centers, and this is actually the first time in weeks that I'm not preceding a raffle. So, that I know of. Marshall, I don't know if there's something planned at the end. It's... I'm sure you've been to events where they have silent auctions. I went to one recently, and it said, "Massage by Greg Feingold," which is upsetting, really. You know, I mean, like massage by Heather, by Yvette, but massage by Greg Feingold. It just, and then to compound that, there was an error, so a typo. It said, "Message by Greg Feingold." Who would want to win that? So, "Hi, it's Greg Feingold. You won me. I called a couple of minutes ago. You weren't home. Greg Feingold. I'll be calling constantly. You need a massage after that, frankly. So. But all the great people who've come here, and presidents and president of the men's club, all different presidents. But I was at President Obama's inauguration. I'm sure many of you were. And when you tell people it sounds impressive, you were at the inauguration, who do you know? No one. I don't know one. I was so far back from the Capitol, I was in Virginia. But it was exciting. It was a really thing, and I'm still excited that we have our President Obama. I love watching him and listening to him. It's a wonderful thing. And I'm on FoxNews.com because I believe in talking to the enemy, and that's why we're here. No, it's a wonderful experience. I've actually met wonderful conservatives, and they do the show that I do, and it's a great experience. Being there, but they criticize him a lot for everything. And President Obama, they would say, what else has he done? This is something he did that a lot of people don't even know. He had the first Passover Seder ever in the White House. How many people knew that? That's a wonderful, that's a nice, it was negative applause. It's actually, we knew it, we didn't want to know, frankly. It's too confusing. What's next? Shavuos? Who knows what they're going to do? But no, they had the first Passover Seder ever in the White House, and even that, the Republicans criticized him for. They said, well, he had a Passover Seder, but there was no media coverage. What's Obama hiding? And Obama's great. He said, the matzah. It's in the club. I'm not saying where it is. And Biden whispered in his ear and told him where it was. But so it's wonderful, though, and we have, I think it's a great administration. I think Hillary Clinton is doing a good job, and Hillary Clinton was our senator in New York State, and when she was running for the Senate, she said that she was part Jewish. And so I did a little research, because whatever our background is, we love to see what celebrities are Jewish. So apparently, I did research, apparently with Hillary, it's her ninth cousin once removed. Step, great-great-grandfather once had a brisket sandwich. So not that observant, but no, whatever, we're Palestinian, we're Jewish, whatever our backgrounds, we love to see. My father loves to see what athletes are Jewish. It's kind of a futile, pathetic obsession, Not since 1953 in City College. It hasn't really been a standout. In those days, basketball play, the average height was 5'3", and the goal was to miss the basket. We excelled, though. We were great. We catered all the games in those days, too. It was wonderful. They had a lovely buffet, and then the game, and then they... But actually, I went to the Philadelphia Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. Actually, it's a closet, but it's a nice... We did have because it's not fair, so we did have there's a baseball player, Sean Green, who was on the Mets a while back, and we were so excited, like, Sean Green, Jewish! And one day he dropped a fly ball, converted! So, but then there are times, whatever our background is, and I'm sure may soon, there are Palestinians, there are Arabs who disappoint you from time to time, and other women comedians might saying there are Jews who disappoint me. In fact, I'm so glad that this administration has an attorney general who actually says that waterboarding is torture. Isn't that a nice change of pace to hear that? And because our previous attorney general, Michael Mukasey, thought he was in favor of torture. Michael Mukasey, by the way, you wouldn't guess by the name, an Orthodox Jew. And when I heard that, I thought, oh, that's great, Jewish attorney general. And then he said he didn't think waterboarding was torture. And yet all the Democrats support him. Senator Schumer said, well, other than his views on torture, he'd be a great attorney general. It's like, other than that, he'd be a great, other than that. It's kind of a big other than that. Highest law enforcement official in the land in favor of torture. It's like saying, how was the food? Well, they never brought the food. Other than that, I enjoyed the place setting was very nice. Do you have a nice flight? Canceled. Other than that, I like looking at the departure board. I got a great deal of satisfaction watching other people get on their flights. Yeah, other than that, really. And it's great that we had an observant Jew as Attorney General. My question is, why can't you observe the Sabbath and the Geneva Convention? But a lot of great people ran, and I'm glad that Bill Clinton is helping out a lot. And with George W. Bush, that together, I think George W. Bush is a decent guy, and together they're working on the situation in Haiti. And I kind of felt sorry for Bush. I guess he had the lowest approval rating of any sitting president at the end. I think it was like 28, and not even percent, just 28. And I was recently at George Mason University in Virginia, where they named their dorms after presidents. Now, if you were living in a dorm named after a president, what do you think would be the most fun socially? The Bill Clinton dorm, right? Right. I mean, hands down, right? I mean, 24-hour partying, no RAs, right? And then they have the George W. Bush dorm, which is not as much fun. It just attacks other dorms for no reason whatsoever. But there are a lot of things, I think comedians, we look at the world a certain way, and we always go, comedians ask why a lot. And that's really, I think, we ask when we look at the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Why can't they just sit down and have peace? I think it can be that simple, really. And this is a lot of questions that we have. Like here in this country, the debate of don't ask, don't tell has been going on for a long time. And the argument against gays in the military is that it creates chaos. As if what? War is this organized, civilized thing to begin with? It's like we're trying to have a war, and the gays showed up. We're trying to shoot people. They're having cabaret shows left and right now. It's very disruptive. We're trying to kill. They're singing Wednesdays at 9:30. And there was a senator back then, he said, well, what if you're in a bunker and it's very close quarters, you're being shot at and bombs are falling on top of you, then you find the soldier next to you is gay, then what? What do you mean, then what? I don't think we're being bombed and shot. It brings up people's romantic intentions. What's going to happen? What's the guy going to say? I know we're being attacked, but you're very attractive, actually. No, it never occurred to me before. Somehow the glow from the shelling brings you out. So many things I don't understand, and being Jewish to me, Judaism is being compassionate, caring about people. When you pick up the prayer book in temple, it says seek peace and pursue it, and that's what we should be doing, and that's what, to me, being Jewish is all about. There's so in this country too. There's so much. Whenever there's a war, people complain about $800 billion for health care, saving lives, but they think nothing of spending $1 trillion for killing people in Iraq and Afghanistan. Oh, that's okay, whatever you want, We'll give you the money now, actually. I've got it on me, really. What's good? Large bills, And the health care debate, and I'm so thankful that we have health care reform in this country, and finally, I don't think, I'm in favor of a single payer. I don't think we need insurance companies getting in health. I love when they say, the people on the right, well, with this new healthcare plan, it's nameless, faceless government bureaucrats getting in the way. Now, first of all, if you're a nameless, faceless government bureaucrat, how does anybody know you're even there? Hi, where are you? I don't have a name. Where are you? I don't have a face. It's like some torso getting involved in some way, and it's. But it's insane. We don't need insurance companies. But having said that, I don't want to put anybody out of work. I think we should put the insurance companies to work for the Defense Department. Wouldn't that be great? It's like, hi, we'd like to bomb that country. Sorry, not covered. All right, how about sending more troops to Afghanistan? No, pre-existing war. Really, the way to stop war is not to fund it. In fact, not to say, look, if people want to band together and make it, I think it should be a local thing. Individuals should raise the money for the war. I think the government should not get involved in the war effort. You want to have a war, fine, you raise the money yourself. Because we have telethons for all the good causes, right? I was on the cerebral palsy telethon a couple of years, and I'm sure you all saw me. I was on from 3 to 7 in the morning, but we have to tell all these people for 25 hours just to raise 50, 60 million for a great cause. Why can't the government shell out the 50 million for cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis? And how about making the Defense Department have a telethon. You know, if the generals want to attack countries for no reason, fine, let them get up and sing for it. When you like to say, oh, hi, we have a lot of countries we'd love to attack, but we can't do it unless those phones are ringing. Anyway, thank you so much for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. Here's to peace. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Scott, great job, brother. Scott Blakeman, ladies and gentlemen. The great Scott Blakeman. Oh, man, that was great, Scott. And you're right, you're right about the energy that goes into things, all the energy and that could be put towards peace. I mean, just think of all the energy we put towards trying to keep ourselves safe in this country. I know we have to do it, but if we could, there's got to be a better way. I mean, anyway, I'm optimistic about that. But I want to bring up the people right now, ladies and gentlemen, who are going to just discuss a few of their personal narratives with you. And again, give us some insight of what it's like to be in the struggle that these folks are in. They're great people, and I feel honored to share the stage with them. I really mean that. And I just want to let you know, again, they're speaking for themselves, and all the comics are speaking for themselves. So if somebody offends you or something, please don't get mad at the Israeli caucus or the Palestinian caucus or Harvard University. Because of the 3 students here, we're all hoping to graduate in May. And at least one of us is still waiting on financial aid. So it's very important to be open-minded and tolerant, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, I'd like to bring up just a real legend, and I'm honored to be sharing the stage with this gentleman. Marshall Gantz, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be he's going to be the moderator. He's going to be the moderator, ladies and gentlemen. Can I just read this, Marshall?
You want to read that?
Do you mind?
Go ahead.
Okay. Marshall Gantz,
yes,
lecturer in public policy, entered
Is it
Harvard.
going to be funny?
No. Oh. Entered Harvard in the fall of 1960. In 1964, a year before graduating, he left to volunteer as a civil rights organizer in Mississippi. In 1965, he joined Cesar Chavez and the United Farm Workers. Over the next 16 years, he gained experience in union, community, issue, and political organizing. During the 1980s, he worked with grassroots groups to develop effective organizing programs, designing innovative voter mobilization strategies for local, state, and national electoral campaigns. In 1991, in order to deepen his intellectual understanding, I love this, of his work, he returned to Harvard College. Me too. And after 28-year leave of absence, completed his undergraduate degree in history and government. He was awarded an MPA by the Kennedy School in 1993 and completed his PhD in sociology in 2000. He teaches, researches, and writes on leadership, organization, and strategy in social movements, civic associations, and politics. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the great Marshall Gantz. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Boy, this is a hard act to follow. Jeez. No, thanks, Jimmy, and to Scott and Maysoon. And thanks to all of you for joining us for an unlikely event. But it's often to the unlikely we turn when we're stuck. So maybe this evening can contribute just a little bit to getting unstuck. There's little new to say about the conflict in the Middle East tonight. It's terrible, it's painful, it's costly, it seems intractable. But this evening, that's not our focus. Our focus is on the people living it. We began with humor. And I guess some people would say, isn't that incongruous or even disrespectful to laugh in the face of such misery? But on the other hand, humor is one of the gifts we've been given to make misery bearable, to keep ourselves in perspective, to retain our sense of humanity. It's one of the great things about Gandhi. That not exactly a paragon of frivolity, that he retained a sense of humor to the very end as a way of retaining his humanity, his sense of proportion, and his capacity for resilience. So now we're going to turn to stories. I had the privilege last week on a visit to Damascus to hear one of the great Hakawatis of that tradition, a storyteller, engaging people, often with humor, in the lessons his culture, his community has to teach and the values that sustain them. I mean, it was wonderful. It was a real treat to go to this coffee house and the guy's sitting up on a chair, and he's got the black book, and he has a cane, which is a substitute for a sword, I understand, and is telling the stories. And the people there, the families and so were there saying, he says, so-and-so was very bad. And everybody says, yeah, it was really bad. So-and-so was really good. Everybody says, yeah, it was really good. And then it was like, well, no, but that's not how it went. So then there was a little discussion about the story and what was the right version of the story. I didn't expect this kind of an interactive, sort of like I was in a black church, but it was in Damascus, and it was very cool. So stories shape who we are and our cultures and our traditions. As a rabbi's son, I grew up surrounded by stories, not just Bible stories, but the stories of this guy and that guy, and sometimes the strands of story and humor intertwined laughter with the wisdom to find the sources of hope, resilience, and creativity. So tonight we're going to hear two storytellers, two members of the community that have offered to share their stories. They also both happen to have been students of public narrative in the fall. They speak for themselves from their own experience. They offer us the opportunity for some insight into their journeys, that of their communities, how it is that they're here, committed to public service, actively exercising leadership on behalf of their communities. So Wasim and Barak, why don't you come up here? And Wasim Cosmo is Palestinian from Jerusalem. He's currently pursuing his master's in public administration as a mid-career student here at the Kennedy School. Boy, this is kind of tribal. Yeah. As a Mason Fellow and heads the Palestinian caucus here. Before coming to the Kennedy School, Wasim worked as a communications and policy advisor to the PLO's negotiation support unit, working closely with the Palestinian chief negotiator and office of the Palestinian president during the Annapolis negotiations process with Israel. He joined the negotiation support unit having previously worked at Orient House's International Affairs Department as a political officer and youth projects manager. He has a BA in business administration from Birzeit University in the occupied Palestinian territory, and a master's in international studies and diplomacy from the School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London. Okay, that was the resume. Let's welcome Wasim. We're going to hear the story in a moment, because a resume is not a story. I want to introduce Barak Lazoun. Works for the Institute for Democratic Education. He runs the Bat Yam model for personalized education, a municipal educational reform in the city of Bat Yam. The model became part of a national education reform. He was National Educational Director and Deputy Director General of the Israel Boy and Girl Scouts Federation, where he's in charge of developing and conducting educational programs for more than 60,000 scouts all over Israel. He also founded the Department of Social Involvement at the Scouts Youth Movement and was in charge of hundreds of young adults during their year of service. Barak was a fellow of Gvanim, a leadership training program to promote Jewish pluralism, a group who represent the full range of religious observance. He is a member of the Global Jewish Peoplehood Education Task Force, was a, Shaliach of the WZO to New York as the educational director for the Tzofim Tzabar program, conducting youth groups for making Aliyah to Israel. He received his BA from Bar Ilan University in Criminology and Political Science, MA from Tel Aviv University in Educational Policy Administration, certified coacher from Tel Aviv University, is a member of Beit Tefillah Israeli, and in charge as part of his reserve duty of preparing the Army staff for the Chetz Bakeshet summer program. He's married with 3 sons and now building a new home in Kibbutz Einat. So let's welcome Barak. Oh, yes, he's also a mid-career and a Mason Fellow. All right. Sorry, I left out the most important thing. So, Wexner Fellow. Oh, I'm sorry.
He's
Okay.
a Mason wannabe.
A Mason wannabe. All right, all right. Well, look, I think we're going to try to do this sitting down. And so, Wasim. So tell us.
It's the most difficult part, I guess. But before telling you, I have to say that I usually have lunch here. And I know the cafeteria is not that good, but it's very difficult to be sitting in this kind of setting. No, basically, I'm a Palestinian from Jerusalem, as you have read my resume. I was born in Kuwait from parents who were born in the old city of Jerusalem. So, and they were working in Kuwait to earn some money so that they can send back home. So I grew up on listening all this story
When did they go to Kuwait?
My father went in the 68 and my mother in 69. Mm-hmm. And they were actually neighbors living in the old city of Jerusalem. So I grew up listening to the stories of how beautiful and difficult the life was in the old city of Jerusalem. You know, the same stories that you would hear from any parents that we used to get this $1 bill and we could spend for 1 month and still can save money, unlike you people. But I also, my parents lived the 48 and 67 wars. And actually in 1967, they were forced out of their family house in the old city of Jerusalem, where is now the expanded Jewish quarter. But for some reason, I think they decided not to bring politics that much into the raising of their kids, which is my brother and I. So we didn't really get that much into politics, so politics was not really spoken inside our house. In '86, we decided, when I was around 9 or actually 10, they decided that it's time to go back and live in Jerusalem. So we went back and we lived among family and friends, and a year later, the first Intifada started. So here I am, a young kid from Kuwait, Palestinian, who was there in Palestine. The only thing that he could think of is how to make friends so that he can play football, which was the only thing that I could think of. And then you have the entire conflict in front of you. So I had to start learning new terminologies and new ideas: occupation, soldiers, curfew, strike, arrests. And one of the stories that I actually continue to remember till today is in the Christmas of '89, when Bishop Desmond Tutu, the South African bishop, decided to visit the Palestinian territories. And we as Palestinian Christians, we were actually very proud of that. So my family decided that we need to go and welcome him in the streets of Jerusalem, just like many of the Palestinian and Muslim, Christian and Muslim Palestinians at that time. To have such an honorable man supporting our cause was very important to us. So there was lots of excitement going on that day that we are going there and to meet this person. So we went down around in front of the old city of Jerusalem, one of the main gates, the Damascus Gate. I don't know if you've ever been there. So there's a nice kind of setting, and people were very happy, and we were actually chanting national songs and welcoming the guests. And one of the songs that till now I continue to hear it in my mind, people were shouting that we want our national rights. We want a national identity, and we want a state. And before not so long, the Israeli soldiers and police actually violently started attacking the crowd and putting some tear gas. And till now, I never understood why, what we did wrong, and what we said was wrong. And I think I carried this along with me all through the years. And together with the other images that I was seeing as a kid, friends being arrested or friends being killed or the entire setting was quite strong. So I decided inside myself that I need to do something for my community. And I decided that I cannot really just live a normal life. That's not my destiny, it seems. But nevertheless, I studied accounting.
Oh, that follows. Yeah, yeah, I get that.
But I actually, while studying accounting at the Birzeit University, I was very active in the student community, in the student body. And I had the chance to meet lots of international delegations to try to explain our cause, because I thought that one of the main flaws or one of the main problems that we Palestinians face, that people do not really understand us. They just think that we are just a bunch of violent, I don't know if we are human beings, but violent kind of creatures. And I want to share with them our point of view and what really we wanted. So I was doing that. And I only worked as an accountant for 2 years after graduation because I couldn't really stand it. Sorry for the accountants, but I thought that it was a very boring job. So I switched career. I decided that I need to work with the community. And I moved on and worked with the Orient House, which was the Palestinian informal headquarters in Jerusalem up until it was closed in the year 2001 by the Israelis. And I was working with the community, with the youth organizations. And it was very important for me to give the youth inside Jerusalem hope that to appreciate life. At the end of the day, life needs to be appreciated with all the problems that they see on a daily basis. That there might be, at the end of the day, a light and a tunnel that they can maneuver and go and build a better future. And yeah, towards after like 4 years, I actually joined the negotiation support unit as a communication and policy advisor, and I was very enthusiastic about my new work because I thought that I'll be very close to the heat, and I'll be making a real difference. And not before long, I was actually very disappointed. Not because I thought that we are doing a bad job, but simply because whatever you are doing and you are looking at the surrounding, you see that you are not really doing a big impact. And it turned out to be that I started to be kind of ashamed of telling people of my place of work among my friends and my family. I remember this clearly, one story. Our office was one of the main offices that worked in bringing the case of the wall in front of the International Court of Justice. And towards the end, we were very happy of the result because we thought that was a major diplomatic breakthrough for us Palestinians. And we could actually take it forward. Maybe the wall and the settlements will actually cease to be built. And maybe we can actually take this decision forward to bring a solution to the conflict. And I remember talking with friends on this important decision that we have, or I have managed to contribute in bringing. And people were looking at me as like I'm a guy with 4 eyes in my face. And it's like, don't you get it yet? You've been engaged into this peace process for the past 16 or 17 years, and you only brought us more occupation and more settlements and more walls. When you will get it, that the only time that the people will hear about us is when we make noise. Mm-hmm. Now, that's a very strong statement, a statement that says that there is no hope, and the only hope that we can do is just to make some noise and so that people know about our existence. A statement that I don't really condone, but at the end of the day, I have very little kind of arguments against, because I've been engaged into the negotiations and in the office for 4 and 5 years. And I'm sure that also the Israelis, they see it from their side as well, that we've been engaged for 17 years, but it's leading us nowhere. So people at the end of the day are kind of losing hope. And it's a very difficult situation when people lose hope, and not only lose hope, but when they see the entire surrounding is very difficult surrounding. It was very difficult, for example, to be a Palestinian working in the negotiations office when the settlements were being built and the Gaza war was happening. how can I really explain this to my friends that what I'm doing is actually the right path? That's my small story for now.
Let me just ask, and then we'll go to Barak, is what makes you hopeful enough to participate in this evening?
I don't know. I mean, whenever the question is posed to me whether I am pessimistic or optimistic, I'd rather say that I'm realistic. I'm neither this or that. I don't know if hope is something that you create. And I think hope is about you doing your work so that you can change your reality. And I think that our current reality is something that we cannot really continue living with. So my only realistic view that this current situation that we Palestinians live cannot continue for long.
And where does your hopefulness come from?
Good question. I don't know. I'm starting losing my hope as well. But I think that I'm determined to change this. And I'm determined that this is the only place that I'm living in. And there's no way and there is no place else to go to. So whether these guys like it or we don't like it, I don't know. But we have to find a way in order to change the situation. And my only hope remains in the determination of my people. My people are very determined to live a normal life, the life that they deserve, just like any other nation in the world.
Thanks, Wasim.
Thank you.
Barak.
I'm going to tell you about my Israel. There's at least, in this audience, at least 12 other Israels. So my Israel actually starts with my grandfather. He was a Jewish Orthodox carpenter. He lived in Libya. So he was surrounded by Muslim population. And he always told me about how great neighbors they were and how they respected one each other and each other's religion. In World War II, he was taken with his wife to a Jado camp. It's a concentration camp. There was in North Africa, in Benghazi, in Libya. And he survived, and he came back home. And he was sure that his neighbors will hug him and shelter him. And they stabbed him and burned his house. So I grew up, and he was persecuted as a Jew and actually ran away to the newly established Israel in the late 40s. So I was brought up by hearing the sentence, never trust an Arab. You will turn around and he'll shoot you in the back. So I'm actually renegotiating my ancestors right now. Yeah. 20-something years afterward, I was born. I was born in 74. It was just after the Yom Kippur War, the 73 war in Israel. Devastating war. I was kind of a part of a generation. They have a famous Israeli song, a protest song, that actually calls our parents of the children of 73. We call our parents, hey, you messed up. You promised us to stop the wars. You stop us. You promised us that we will not have to go to war and so on. And I grew up, and 18 years afterward, I, of course, had to go to the army as a part of the compulsory service we have in Israel. But I was educated throughout these years, both in the Scouts movement, in the Zionist youth movement I was part of and very active at, and in school and home. I was educated to a very kind of new Israeli narrative, new Zionist narrative, which actually was focused both on, like Scott talked before, with the Jewish values and pursue peace and respect and love the other as much as you love yourself, but also about our, ancient right to sit there. This is Zionism. We actually returned to Zion. This is our father's home, and my goal actually my life goal is to take care of it, to take responsibility on it, to fight. I actually remember I was sitting in a Scouts activity, and our leader at the Scouts just asked us to jot down on note, what would be the best thing that can happen to you when you grow up? I was silly, 15 years old, but I had no doubt. I want to die in the army. I want to be a hero. So for me, crazy as it sounds, it was part of something that I really felt hard and pursued. So at the age of 18, I joined the army. I went to a combat unit, which actually combines also settling in kibbutzim, in small villages on the border of Israel, with fighting, with being a combat, with a fighter, with a paratrooper. And here I was, 19 years old, holding a gun, with uniforms, walk down frightened, but didn't want anyone to see it, in the streets of Gaza, and in Jabalia refugee camp in Gaza, and Shabura refugee camp in Rafiah in southern Lebanon. And the experience I had there was overwhelming, and in hindsight, I would say very formative experience. I saw the eyes of the kids and the women and the young boys staring at me, frightened, angry, frustrated, but I felt exactly like them. I felt frustrated that I need to be there just in order to guard my family back there. I hated being there, but I was there almost 3 years, almost 3 full years, just walking around neighborhoods and standing in checkpoints and so on and so forth. Well, there goes my personal story. A few years afterward, I met Karen, which later will become my wife, and it was in a great romantic trip in the Negev, in the southern desert of Israel, and we started to talk and kind of engage romantically. But I had tickets to 1 year abroad because, like a lot of Israelis, after a very extensive 3 years in the army, we ran away. All I wanted to do is dance in the carnival in Rio. So Karen told me, come on, go on the plane. If it needs to be, it will be. Don't worry, I'm here. And actually, I went and came back. I think I had a lot of time of reflection there about what happened to me in the army. And I started to choose. I actually started to work in education in a kind of self-motivated to change the way things are in Israel. And in the other side, I started to engage with the Palestine Dialogue Center, a great organization in Palestine. And we together started to kind of bring future soldiers, which will stand in checkpoints, and students from the Palestinian students from the University of Birzeit. We brought them to Delphi city in Greece and to talk together and to engage in peace. Right there, in the midst of my hope and I got a telephone call, and then I figured out that my sister, my youngest sister, Hila, a beautiful young lady. She was a young girl then, 17 years old. She's a musician, and she went with her boyfriend to a pub in Tel Aviv. It's called Mike's Place. And during this evening, a suicide bomber came into the pub and explode. My Hila's boyfriend was badly injured. Hila, fortunately, was not physically injured, but she kind of stopped smiling. And I'm talking about a really beautiful, smiling young lady. And I saw my father and my parents. I mean, we lost years of life in this night. So I kept on working in education, trying to be optimistic, and yet being with my sister, with having her and her boyfriend accompany them throughout the process. And then something kind of anecdotal thing happened. We bought our first apartment in Tel Aviv, And it was a very small one, and I asked the guys who renovated it to lower the ceiling a little bit so we can put, lights. And when Karen's father came in and for the first time and saw it, he started to cry and he said, "Hey, you can actually hide here." And I didn't understand how come a 60-year-old man in the middle of Tel Aviv telling me, thinking about this ceiling and that I can hide Karen and my kids there. And it brought me to understand widely his story and to further investigate it. He was born in Bergen-Belsen. It's a camp where after liberating the camps in Europe, the concentration, destruction camps. So he was born in Bergen-Belsen to two parents. The father had a huge family, 6 brothers, 6 kids, and a wife, and they were all killed in front of his eyes. And he met, after the war, he met another woman which actually had the same exact story. They met together, and they engaged romantically, and here is Yitzhak, Karen's father. So he was not practically, he didn't went through the Holocaust, but he lived it, and he still lives it. And I know that Karen lives it. I was exposed to the whole Holocaust, heavy issue that is still present, I think, in the whole Israeli society, but also in my family right now. So now we have 3 boys, which in Israel means that you kind of have a high probability that these boys will face the conflict in a very violent way. After, so many years, the army service will also apparently be compulsory. Also, when Yuval, my older one, in 10 years' time, will have to go to the army. So you ask, where do I, take the hope from? I don't know. And I'm really, I think we talked a little bit about it. I think it's a period of time that we're losing hope. And there's another thing, we don't really see each other. If it weren't for the Kennedy School or for this year, this opportunity would almost never happen. I'm in Tel Aviv, he's in East Jerusalem, the guys in Gaza, we have a wall. We don't see each other. My kids will never see Wasim kids. Future kids.
Future kids.
Maybe I'll never have kids.
So I don't know where the hope comes from. I know that I'm determined to do whatever I can to not have Yuval to jot down a note and say that he's willing to die for his country, rather to live for it.
Thanks, Bara. Thank you. So I think we have some time for questions. And there's microphones. And you can come to the microphone. You can direct your question to Barak or Wasim or both. And the question, as is famously said in the forum, is something that ends with a question mark. Keep them brief, focused. Here's an opportunity to just talk a bit. What? Here. Are you? You can go first. I'll go second. All right.
Thanks so much for coming. It was really nice.
Tell us who
my
you
name
are.
My name is Dennis Moore. I'm a sophomore at the college, and thanks so much for coming. It was really nice to combine the comedy at the beginning with the serious discussions at the end. And my question to both of you is, what would it take to give you hope? Because it's not like you're saying you don't have any hope, but what concrete actions, what headline would you need to see in the paper tomorrow or 2 weeks from now that would re-inspire you to get back into not really the fight, but the fight for peace?
Who wants to go?
The word justice is very important for me. And I think maybe both Israelis and Palestinians agree disagree on many things, but they agree on maybe one thing. The majority of the Palestinians and Israelis, at least, they agree that this conflict can be resolved based on the two-state solution, meaning that the Israeli occupation over the West Bank and Gaza Strip, including East Jerusalem, need to end. And that's what means justice for me as a Palestinian. When I have my dignity and have be living as a normal human being without really having to face all of the hurdles of the occupation on a daily basis. I don't want this event to sound as if there's no troubles and there's a too cute. I don't know if I'm cute.
We left the cupcakes with the kumbaya over there, so we don't have that.
So we still have our differences, even though that Barak and I can talk logic with each other, but still we have our differences. But I think the main aim of this event is to say that we can talk about the conflict from a very non-conventional way as well. I don't know. Hope is I truly believe that we have to work hard to make it happen, because I don't think that hope really exists at this point in our region.
Just a quick thing, hope is not enough. I mean, there's a lot to do, like proactive, I would say from younger generation now, in both sides, in taking responsibility on what's happening in each side. It's amazing. As Wasim said, the majority of the state of Israel, of the Israeli society, has actually agreed to two-state solutions now and to other things. So it seems like we're getting closer in terms of maybe arguments or negotiation, but we're getting really, really far from each other in terms of psychology, and there's a dehumanization process in both sides, in education, in media, and so on. So in this aspect, I think we have a lot to work on.
Hi, I'm Janine Jacob. I'm an MPP1. Thank you for sharing your stories. I was lucky enough to be one of the 40-odd individuals who went to Israel and the West Bank during spring break. And one of the things that I learned, and all of us on the trip noticed, was just what Barak had said, that Israelis in Tel Aviv weren't talking to Israelis in the settlements. Israelis in the settlements weren't talking to people in East Jerusalem. People in East Jerusalem weren't talking to, the diaspora in the States. And basically it was just a problem of people not communicating with each other. So we're here at the Kennedy School. And one of the things that I noticed here is
This is going to end in a question mark, right?
What?
This will end in a question mark?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I just wanted to say is that I noticed that even in America that there's this problem of dialogue where we're not even diaspora communities really aren't talking to each other like we're talking right now. So my question is what would you like all of us to do here in the United States to help make sure that this dialogue happens and that we can actually hear the other side of the story?
Who'd like to tackle that?
I can. This is solely my personal view. I think we need help. We need a third party, an active one, that will take part, kind of an active part in what's happening. I think we're in a kind of a loop, which is dangerous for years now. How you're going to do it, I have no idea. It doesn't seem to really succeed up till now, but I think that there is a need.
Certainly, there's a need for help from the international community, and from my Palestinian side, I say that international community need to be fair and just. This is not the feeling that we have from the Palestinian side. And on the issue of dialogue, yes, there is a problem of the way that we perceive each other. The only thing that I interact with the Israelis in the West Bank, and especially in East Jerusalem, are either the settlers or the soldiers on the checkpoints. But I don't think that this is really the main problem, because before the first Intifada erupted, things were, going more or less okay in terms of dialogue. People were working and going into Israel with no problem. The main problem is that there is this really deep feeling of injustice inside the Palestinian society that they are living under occupation. For us, it's an easy equation. End the occupation, you'll have peace.
Thank you. Is there somebody up there in the stratosphere? Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, over here.
Good evening. My name is Matthias. I'm a mid-career student here from Chile, South America. Thank you very much for sharing your stories. You're both victims of your own religions. Either a guy crosses the border and blows himself up in the name of God, either you do the other thing on the settlement or whatever. Is there any movement within the younger generations that are questioning the belief system that led you to this degrees of aggression? That's my question.
Okay, there's a non-controversial question.
Yeah.
Who'd like to take that one?
Well, I actually don't agree. I mean, I'm a very proud Israeli Jew, and I love my religion. I love what it represents. I don't think that religion caused it. I actually think that religion might be one of the ways that we can find ways to work together, rather than divisive.
I agree. I don't think that this is a religious conflict. I think that religion is being used and abused by both three parties, the Christians, the Muslims, and the Jews for that matter. Not only the ones that live inside Israel, Palestine, but also the ones that live outside the country. I think, I don't know about whether the religion will actually result in finding a solution, but I don't think that it's really the main issue of the problem. The problem is mainly a nationalistic problem between a nation that I represent, or I talk I'm part of that nation, that feels that it has been interrupted and it needs its justice, and it needs to live just like any other nation in the world, in a country or in a dignity or with full rights. Now, religion came and go. That's the story that's happening all over in other conflicts, that religion is being hijacked by some extremists to advance some goals that the majority of the Palestinians and I think the Israelis do not really condone.
Thank you.
Hi. Sorry, I know I talked already, but something Barak said shocked me to my core. You said that your children don't see Palestinians. So my question is this. With 1.5 million Palestinians living within Israel, has it ever occurred to you to take your kids to a place like Lid, which is populated with Palestinians, or the refugee camp in Shafat, so that they can see their Palestinian brethren, see what's happening to them, and possibly consider refusing to serve in the army in a place like Gaza? Is it something that you've considered, saying, you know what, I don't want my kids to serve blindly the way I did. I want them to see the humanity.
Thank you. Yes, I thought about it, and I decided that I won't do it. And not only because of the wall, because I am conflicted very much. I go to, 30 days a year, I'm standing at checkpoints. Not in the last 2 years, but for up till 2 years, I am a soldier. You meet at checkpoints. Now, the easy way for me was to say no and not doing that. I chose, and I keep choosing to say yes, because I think that I can bring a change. I can bring a change from within. Modestly, I'm trying. There's a problem having my kids meet people or other kids or people from Palestine right now, because as I experienced, this is so polarized, and this is so, even in your question, we need to do more work in order to create through an authentic dialogue without bringing kids together after being kind of brainwashed, as I say it, by the way, in both sides. It's not like I'm saying it's just a second. Just, for my kids to understand that in the same time that the establishment of the State of Israel is maybe the most amazing, overwhelmingly success of the Jewish people for the last, 2,000 years. In the same time, the same date, this is the Nakba, the disaster of the Palestinian people. I would start there, just to acknowledge that we both see the same event. It was a zero-sum game. And I want my kids to acknowledge it. I want, Wasim to acknowledge it. I want you to acknowledge it. That this is, in the same time, the best thing that happened to the state, maybe to the Jewish people. I'm not sure. But also the disaster. This is one way to start to think in a more complex way, maybe about the conflict.
Shall I go? Okay. Sure. Mahasti Dadresan, I'm a mid-career master in policy administration and a classmate of Wasim and Barak and Jimmy, and very proud of all of you this evening. Professor Gans, you're not doing too badly either. My question is brief, but I suspect the answer is very complex. If we agree that it's not a just peace, but both the Israelis and the Palestinians need peace, could you tell me in your own words what you think that would entail, how that would look like?
To have peace, you have to have justice. You cannot have peace without justice. You'll be lying on yourself. And I don't want to lie on my people nor on the Israeli people. And justice can be reserved or served once I feel that the occupation has ended. And less than that, I don't think that how can I have peace? At least I don't think that you mean peace by meaning that I surrender and raise the white flag. That didn't happen, and that will never happen because I'm there and I want to live in dignity. And I think that Barak would share the same view.
I agree about justice and dignity. I would like to live in a secure place. Also, for me and for my kids, I would like to be acknowledged as a Jewish and democratic state in this not very simple neighborhood we're living in. That's all I want, actually, if you ask me as an individual. This is all I need.
No problem.
Thank you.
That's why we have
clarified.
Obama.
Yeah. Yes.
My name is Arin, and I am Palestinian and Israeli resident, so I'm living in Israel. We are more than 1,300,000 Palestinians who are living in Israel. Barak, you just say that, like one of the problems that you don't see people from Gaza, you don't see people from Jerusalem. Well, I'm sure you see many Palestinians who come to study in Tel Aviv, in Haifa, in Jerusalem, everywhere. Now, we try to integrate because we don't have other place to go to. We try to integrate in the universities. We try to integrate in, to have jobs, and we don't. Many of us, they don't. They don't get anything at the end. So how, you just say that it's hard because many of the people there, they ignore the Palestinians. They ignore that they exist, even if they are just in front of them. And I think that the problem between Palestinians and Israel, it's not only about negotiation. I think that there's something bigger than that inside Israel that is going on. Maybe you can talk about it and how can we change, because the situation now is just going to be very extreme, and it's going extreme every single day. And we are losing hope. We are losing hope.
So the question is?
The question is, how can you see there will be a change? Because the problem is not only seeing the Palestinians in Jerusalem, because you are seeing us in Tel Aviv, in Haifa, and everywhere. What are you doing? You are just ignoring. How can you see? What do you suggest should be done by the Israelis and the Jews? To solve the situation.
Thank you.
I'm not sure, by the way. I'm really not sure. I know, 20% of Israel, just for you to know, is a minority of Arabs. I'm not sure if I'm correct in the exact number. But it's a two-side story. Israel is kind of forming its identity. I think the Palestinians are also, maybe in a very earlier stage. I know I have Israeli Palestinian friends. I know how conflicted they are about their identity and how much work they need to do in order to want to integrate, to be a part of the state of Israel, to accept what is happening in Israel in a lot of ways. So it is a comment. I feel that it's kind of even not a fair comment for me, because
I'm sorry, you are saying like what Palestinians should do. I'm asking what you should do. I'm sorry, like
what I should do.
Yeah, like what Israeli Jews should do in order to do, like you are just talking about what Palestinians should do.
Hang on a second. Give him a chance to finish.
I understand the conflict. The conflict. It is an Israeli society where we are pretty divided right now, not only between Jews and Arabs, as you know. I don't know. I really don't know. I know that it should happen. I don't know.
That's why he's in Harvard.
Cambridge to find out. Wasim, do you have any comment to make on that?
I don't know. I mean, again, these events are very nice to happen, and from now and then. But then the situation on the ground keeps you questioning whether you should be part of these events or not. I mean, the people that went to the trip to Israel, Palestine, really witnessed how difficult the situation is. And I've been living here 1 year at the Kennedy School, living in the center of a universe. But
according to some,
I'm gonna go back.
I thought Jerusalem.
I'm gonna go back to the city of peace, right. Which is divided into little pieces. So, while I like these events to happen, to educate the public about how difficult it is, and that there's lots of things that we need to do in order to educate and raise the awareness about the situation on the ground and the need for putting an end for the injustices and for the conflict. And I think both of us, we deserve a chance.
Adam?
Thank you very much. Wazim and Barak, my two very good friends. I'm really happy to see that friendship of yours, which I see every day, extend to this point where you are. I've had the privilege of living in Israel. I lived in Israel for about 3 months. And what I noticed was that, this conflict is almost like a sport, but which you guys are very used to. I mean, it is, no other thing, but that sport. And I have the impression, too, that maybe external interventions.
Excuse me, is this going to go to a question?
Yes.
Okay.
The question is, what have you tried? I mean, just the Israelis and the Palestinians, without outside influence, interventions from all interested parties. Has there ever been any effort just by you, to talk to each other like you are cousins, I would imagine? Have you tried to talk to yourselves?
Want to comment on that?
Well, for me, you need to understand what the conflict is. And it's not like, for me, it's a very basic conflict. And the way that I see it, I think that many Palestinians see it as I said before in other comments, that there is an occupation. And it's an easy tool that you need to end the occupation in order to arrive to, at least to our aspiration as Palestinians. And that's what we have been engaged for the past maybe 17 years since the start of the peace process. But for a normal Palestinian who have witnessed and was happy to see that finally we are sitting on a negotiating table to end the occupation and to establish a Palestinian state, they have seen something contrary happening on the ground. Maybe the asymmetry of power is a very big part of the problem. And just having a Palestinian and Israeli in a room, also the question of the asymmetry of power will be there, because we are the people under occupation. We cannot force the Israelis out.
Barak?
I don't think so right now. I think that the situation right now is kind of stuck. There are all kinds of grassroots tryouts and organization, I think, in both sides. I do think that we're in a basically a very hard time of kind of despair, as I see it.
Last question. Mir?
Shalom and assalamu alaikum and hello. I'm a journalist by profession and student here, but today I really don't have a question. I just wanted to thank you. I'll be graduating with both of these two people, young, handsome people, and Barak and Wasim, and I came to Harvard to restore my idealism and hope. And it has been a difficult education, frankly. But we're belittling this event because it seems to be like in a cocoon, but cocoons are important. And I just wanted to thank you. And I just have two wishes as well. One, Wasim, I hope you give up your wild ways and you finally settle down and have some children. And two, Barak, for you, that I hope your children get to play with Wasim's. Thank you again.
That's lovely. And I actually think with that, that's a lovely closing. Jimmy,
Quick announcement?
you have an announcement? I want to give Wasim and Barak each a few minutes just to wrap up. We'll make your announcement. We'll thank everyone.
I don't feel there's a rep. It might be only a beginning. We're not sure about the friendship, but it is a beginning. It's an open invitation, maybe, to start here at the Kennedy School. It is a very unique opportunity for us to move forward and to start to engage with a dialogue. So, thank you.
I'm very privileged to be in the forum again, and my mother will be very happy to see.
My mother.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of
Now,
a sign.
this is a common ground. Both mothers will be very happy to. Right.
Now, this is a proof that I graduated from the Kennedy School, so I can quit classes already. I don't know if I have really an ending comment. Apart from just like ever, I think, and I take this strength from my people, that I'm determined to move forward in order to bring justice and peace to my nation.
Jimmy, do you have an announcement? I have something I want to say to wrap up, but
Sure. I'll just do a quick announcement. You're all invited to Tommy Doyle's after this. It's on Winthrop Street, and there's free chicken wings. And let's just say the road to peace runs right through Tommy Doyle's.
all right. That's also a hard act to follow. I was just going to thank our participants, all of them tonight, and all of you for sharing this time with us. I mean, I am a fan of Maimonides, the really North African Spanish Jewish philosopher, who had a definition of hope that I like, because it's not optimistic. It's an effort to be realistic. But the realism in his definition of hope is hope being belief in the plausibility of the possible, as opposed to the necessity of the probable. The plausibility of the possible as opposed to the necessity of the probable. We went through a presidential campaign last year that was a triumph of the possible over the probable. And it's reasonable then to recognize that the improbable also can happen. And that's a part of the realism we need and the hope I think we need to go forward. So thank you very, very much.